Welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club.
Going to see a fast start off the line here.
Was off the back, then went through. Now this is a tactic that is used, isn't it, Emma, to lay off and pull through the group.
The momentum it gives you, if you time it right, of dropping to the back and then accelerating through the group, you are taking that draft with you, and it really allows you to push and snowball over the top.
Bauer has pushed, she's gone, but look at that group behind. They are still in contention. In the front of the race, we've got Bauer on the right of your screen. She gets out of the saddle. This is the final kick for the line. Take it race victory in qualifier number 3. It is Jojo Bauer who takes the race win, 57.55. The sprint is on behind. It is going to be a quick... Hello and welcome to Sunday Race Club here on MyWhoosh. It is our monthly end of month final. We've had some great qualifying races, but the time for rehearsals is over. This is the finale. This is where those teams need to make it count, because we have the addition of our team prize money as well as our individual prize money, and we are going to be heading on to a cracker of a course. My name's Matt Payne. I'm going to be running through all of the action. I'm joined down here in the studios by Professor Emma Martin, aka the boss, pretty much, when she's out and riding. Emma, we've seen some great racing so far. We've just seen some great racing on the men's race, but the women's course, slightly different, but very similar in other ways.
Yeah, different course for the women today. Hello, and I am really looking forward to this women's race today. So we are back to the course, 35.9 kilometres with 574 metres of climbing. I'm going to put my teeth in today. And this is over 2 laps today. And the map in front of you is 1 lap of this course. Our riders are going to do this twice. So, and as you can see, there are 2 category 4 climbs per lap, but 4 climbs per lap in total. So 8 climbs today for our riders, 4 category 4 climbs, and they come thick and fast in the middle of this course. So we've got a really flat run in for the first 4.7 kilometres until we hit that first climb. We then have our 4 climbs in succession, and then we have a flat run to the finish. So we are going to have 2 laps of this course today, and I think it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be a puncher's course. We last did this course in qualifier 2. So it's been a couple of weeks, but most of our riders will have ridden it, they will have raced it, and they will know what will be facing them today.
Cool. So the riders heading out onto the course, and we've got some amazing riders in some amazing teams. Now, in category number 1, the team to beat at the moment are the Fusion Squad. Embring, Bjarhead, Donny, Bardaskaya. 3 wins in the last 4 sets of finals. The team most likely to challenge is the Spartan Obstacles team, Brogan, Van Heuling, Fua, and Cavedo. A win back in May in our finals, 2nd in the August finals. But don't discount the Strong Girls or Las Colombianas in that mix. They are likely to be the teams to challenge. And of course, Team Italy B now with a new mix of riders. That could be one to put throw the spanner in the works, Emma.
Yeah, it could be indeed. So we've got 23 riders today on the start sheets for our category 1 and 6 teams in total. And I think it's going to be really strong racing today. I think we're going to see some really competitive team racing.
Indeed. Now, in category 2, we see some incredible battles here, some great rides. The Strong Women's team have taken 3 wins in the past 4 months' worth of finals, but last time out they were beaten by the Tri Women, who took victory in our August final. The team who actually have taken 2nd place is the team RT Cycle Zone Ladies 2. They have 2nd place in all 4 of the last month's finals, but Team Fitness 10 and the SZ Hyenas could challenge. And don't forget, of course, the SZ Hyenas, again, another new mix of riders.
Yeah, so our category 2 riders in our green jerseys today. 20 riders taken to the start line, 6 teams in this category as well. So I'm thinking we're going to see some competitive racing here too, Matt.
Indeed, and they always put in a great race, and I think this is a course that could suit a strong team to close those gaps down. Now, in category 3, we've got some new teams in here, really good to see. We've got the established teams like the team from the Cycle Hub race team. They took the win in our August final, but Guild of Gems actually a team a lot of people will recognise as being the Team RT Ladies SZ squad, because we have people like Zabala, Paolo, Giuliano, Gerardo Arias, and Sorazuk in there. They have, in their old form, taken 3 out of the 4 wins and a second place last time. But the Empress squad has got some really fast riders in there. Good to see another team in form. And the Climate Girls, of course, well, they've got 2 top 3s so far in that team competition in the past finals. And we've got some strong individual riders in there as well. I think category 3 is going to be a tough one today.
Yeah, I think we're going to see that across all 3 of our categories. So our category 3 riders in those blue jerseys today, 21 riders again on the start line, 5 teams, and I think that Guild of Gems are going to have their work cut out for them, Matt, today, because I think we're going to see another strong team race here.
I do think you got that absolutely nailed. And of course, Cycle Hub Race team, they may well be the team to take top spot. Remember, of course, our teams competing for the prizes, top 5 teams in each of our categories up for prizes. The prizes equal in men's and women's races. Our riders starting to line up. We are ticking our way down into the race start. And Emma, this is where it counts. We're in with Ursula Bardskaya at the moment. And a real mix, as you can see, very evenly represented there.
Yeah, so we have our yellow category 1 jerseys in with our green category 2 and blue category 3 riders, as we see a ideally quite fast kick off the start line there from Bardskaya, because we've got a really flat start today, a 4K flatland start, and actually riders utilising this. I think we're going to see a large pack of riders in the mix on this start before we go into the climbs, and I think Van Hooling and Donny and Bjarhead and Tico, we've got some normal contenders up there pushing forward into this pack to try and push this race along.
And it is key, isn't it? Because we talk about being in the pack, the draft effect, staying in behind a rider, making the most of that and having your numbers up in green on the top left-hand side of the screen is key. That's when you're getting that draft. And we just see Jojo Bauer doing that. And that means that if you're taking that little bit of a rest and going on the front, taking a rest, going on the front, the whole pack moves faster. And if you're not on that express train as it sets off from the station that is the start line, you are going to get left trying to play catch up, and it's not an easy thing to do. Very interesting to see. Big profusion of yellow jerseys up at the front of the race, as you'd expect, and then our category 3 riders generally towards the back of the ride. And it's just about power off from that start, isn't it?
It is, and we saw a really strong kick off the start line from some of these riders, but actually we've settled really, really quickly into a large pack of riders on the front, and we've got around 40 riders in that large pack that you can see in front of you. And this pace has settled very, very quickly, because I think these riders are going to use this early pace just to settle in, find the position, find the teammates, get comfortable, because once those climbs start coming, I think this is going to break up.
Well, indeed. And then once we've had those climbs, we go into that middle section, because, of course, on the map, it was a flat section at the end of a lap and at the start of the next one, which basically joined together in the middle of the race. So imagine 4K, then into the climbs, then 4K out, which actually turns into 8K because you've got the start of the next lap, and then back out the other side. Now, in with Marcella Manalang at the moment from our category 3 teams in there, just making a way in and along for that Cycle Hub race team. And you can just see groups starting to form, and that is key. The moment you get dropped from the main group, find another group quickly, jump in with it. It's not just about draft, it's mutual support as well.
It is, and a group on the road will travel quicker than a lone rider. Using the draft, using the teammates, and actually being in that group will really be beneficial. And I think I've just spotted Rebecca Gilson there, Matt, actually, who obviously had a really difficult start because she's just gone flying past that category 3 group that we've got on the right-hand side of our screen. So I think Gilson has missed the start.
Well, I don't think you're wrong. Here she comes. And I have to say, it is a regular occurrence for Rebecca Gilson not to get the timing right at the start. Whether she's just super confident, maybe she just might be one of those riders who doesn't want to go in the red really early on in a race prior to a warm-up. Could well be that because, of course, we are all around the world. She may just literally just walked in through the door prior to racing, because people are racing from all the way around the globe.
No, you're quite right there, Matt. In every time zone, we have riders in this race today. So for some, it's morning, for some, it's afternoon, for some, it's evening, and for some, it's nighttime. We do not know what these riders are doing beforehand. And actually, if you are coming in from work and you are caught in traffic, the number of riders who have jumped on and the start has been their warm up. So it is possible. Anything is possible. But Gilson, there she is. She's in the pack. She's in 25th place. She's made the junction, and now she's sat in that group.
And I think your count there, Emma, are pretty much spot on. About 40 riders in that leading group at the moment. We're just in with Lynette Cabanata at the moment. And Lynette just riding nicely at the back. Just needs to close that gap a little bit. And it's amazing what difference having only a few centimetres in between can make. Lynette riding for that Empress squad, the new squad in Category 3.
Yeah, and in fact, Garione's just gone over the top of her, and she's just taken a bit of a draft there. So actually now that has pulled the tail of the group back, and she's now comfortably sat in the draft of that very large group.
Indeed. And the pace at the moment, 32 kph, 34 kph. So rolling around at 20 miles an hour for those of us old enough to remember miles per hour rolling kilometers an hour, or working that in our home countries. Really interesting that they are holding what is a steady pace, because we know these riders are capable of much more.
Yeah, for our Category 1 riders, this is definitely a steady pace. We're in with Fur at the moment, whose heart rate is sat at around 155. This is a really steady pace for a rider like Fur. This is something she could probably tick over for a very long time at. For our Category 2 and Category 3 riders, obviously that's a little bit different. And we would see higher heart rates, and this would be a much bigger effort for some of them. But they are doing the right thing. The longer they can stay in these lead groups, the better and the further down the field they are going to get, and the further up their race category they're going to be.
So here we go, watching Rebecca Gilson, 159 beats per minute, as Emma says, going into that group now, no doubt trying to get that heart rate down. Just riding with Jenny Sanchez. Sanchez riding for the strong women's squad. They didn't take the team win last time in our finals, in the August finals, but they had a clean sweep of May, June, and July wins. So they're going to be looking to take that top spot back in Category 2. Interested to see if Jenny Tan, Noveline Kekkonen, Morgan Olsen, and Angel and Hadlock are able to break their T2 position. They've been in that for the last 4 races. I'm hoping they're going to be able to move up rather than down, because, of course, it's always great to see teams improving and taking the battle to those established teams. And the more it mixes up, the more fun it is for us, not just as commentators, but as absolute fans of riding a bike and racing out there. And, of course, for our riders, because they want it to be fun. We all do this because it's really enjoyable. The added bonus of prize money, of course, always helps.
It does, but what I'm looking forward to most today, Matt, is to start to see this racing come alive, because I'm expecting we've got a lot of teams in here and a lot of teams that are really competitive. So other than our qualifying races where there is no team prize category, I'm expecting that those teams and the team decisions to really dictate some of the racing today.
Certainly. Now, we don't want to give any spoilers away for the men's race, but it was, one, an absolute cracker. And 2, team tactics were very, very evident in that. And that communication between teams was blindingly obvious. You didn't need to be tuned into their Discord channel to see what was going on, to see that communication in action, from what was happening where riders were being distanced behind to what riders were doing when they were attacking on the front. And that is key, isn't it? I mean, our riders just going into the climb, they're going to be telling each other, I'm feeling good, I'm going to push on, I'm going to be easing off. Don't attack now, I'm having a bad time, I've just dropped a gel on the floor.
Yeah, exactly. And whilst we can see the outcomes of those discussions on the screen, you're right, Matt, we're not party to hearing them. And actually, to be a fly on the wall in some of those team rooms would be a really interesting added part to the broadcast today. But as we can see, these riders now, with 4.6 kilometres covered on this course, are starting to climb. And we're seeing this climb now start to spread, this large pack of what was 44 riders going into this climb. We're now starting to see smaller groups start to form as 12.4% takes effect.
It does indeed. The average gradient, I think, just under 10% for the climb. But of course, the steeper sections will be harder still. And we're seeing that. I mean, a consistent gradient of over 12% as this group starts to break up. And I guess there's no surprises, really, Emma. Rebecca Gilson's on the attack.
Yeah, and these climbs, Matt, are so suited to her. We've seen Gilson and we've seen Bauer ride amazingly on this course before. You know, these climbs are between 800 and 900 metres in length, these first three on this lap. They are so steep, 6.3%, 9.3%, 12.3% average gradient across those first three climbs. And that's average. So there are much steeper sections on these climbs. And these short, sharp, punchy climbs have really suited the likes of Gilson, Bauer, Donny, Van Hoolen. So we have different riders who have real strength and specialisms here. And I think this is going to be really interesting.
So here we go. We are about halfway up this climb. You can just see it levels up at the green Telmary sign right hand side of the course. Just we go underneath the lights. Gilson's still on the front, pushing on the pace. It has strung the group out. If you look at the map on the top right hand side of your screen, you can see that the blobs basically are distanced. They are just a long string of circles rather than being one huge mass of riders. Our leader on the left of your screen, the chasing group behind on the right, that gap is continuing to open, but Gilson, I won't put it past her to go on the attack and try and make the race from the word go. She certainly seems to be strong enough to do that. But whether it'll pay off on this course with that flat middle section, I think that is another thing altogether. Gilson goes up to the top, and the names that are chasing there, Emma, I think a few people showing their hand quite early here. People like Van Heuling, Donny, Oliviera, Bjarhead, all up at the front of this pack on that chase. And interesting, we got Maria Marin going over the top as well.
Yeah, but this course, Matt, is relentless. So they've just gone up over the first climb. They're going to drop down off the other side. There's a short, flat transition before we hit the second climb. There is no transition between the second and third climb. We drop off the second climb. We go straight into the steepest of those three climbs before we then descend off of that into what is a rolling section, which includes the fourth climb in each lap. And what's really interesting is great to see Gilson making some attacks and some moves on the front, but let's not forget, last week we saw her blow. We saw her go so hard. Her heart rate topped at 207 beats per minute. She took herself so far into the red in that chase last week. She blew. I'm assuming she is not going to do that today. She is going to measure her effort perfectly. That would be my race plan if I was her.
And it's something you don't forget, is it? You go into the red, you push so hard, and then you blow, and literally, you might as well be at a standstill. I mean, I remember doing it, racing on a road race when I was much younger, and I literally ended up pretty much walking up these little draggy, I can't even call them a climb. There was a slight rise because I'd gone so far into that red zone. And you can see the damage that's being done here. Our leading group at the moment, that is of 17 riders. Well, they at the moment now have the gap on the roads on the right of your screen. And Novelin and Kekkonen, along with Morgaine Olsen, chasing hard to bring that gap down. But for a massive group, that has rapidly disappeared here as we head in towards that oasis with Maria Martin at the front. In the front, and then the rest of the group there. And you can just see that gap to Kekkonen and Olsen, who are really working to get that gap back down on the flat before they hit that next climb.
Yeah, so we're here on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club, and we have gone from a group of 44 riders in the lead pack to a group of 17 after climb one. And we are rolling now. We are rolling into climb two. So, Matt, I'm really interested to see what these next two climbs are going to do to this group of 17.
Yeah, definitely. I think this little gap, this transition period here, it's quite deceptive because it's flat, but you can see the hill coming, and that plays on people's minds. You can roll along here, and you come around this corner, you see the climb coming. I know when I've ridden this, I've been out and ridden this on a MyWhooshes ride and on my bunch ride. You come around, and you're thinking, I know that's going to hurt. I know this is going to be hard, and there's no way everyone's going to just tap the way up that. And that's really interesting when you hit that point, because what you've done with your head can make a big difference.
Yeah, and I'm just watching there, Matt, because Kokkonen and the rider that she was with, I'm just trying to pick that up, have just pulled back onto the back of that bunch now. So that bunch of 17 is now a bunch of 19 because those two Category 2 riders that we're chasing have made the junction.
And one of them on your screens at the moment, Morgane Olsen in there. Olsen rolling away basically through to the front with that chasing move. But our rider's now onto the draggy section. It pulls up and away from that water side, and it starts going. You see the rider starting to get out of the saddle. This is the attacking point where you hit that 11%. We're not even off the water yet, and yet that kick has come. And at 10%, this is going to hurt. But this climb, Emma, is not easy, is it? And this is just the precursor to our second fourth category climb of the day.
It is. So we are going to go up this climb, Matt, which has got an average gradient of 6.3% for 800 metres. We'll drop down the other side, and then we meet the really steep climb, an average gradient of 12.3%. And I think what's going to be interesting is whether any of these Category 1 riders make or break this lap, or whether they are going to sit and wait till lap 2 and be happy just to slowly whittle this group down until they come to this section of climbing again next time.
And I think watching that move there, as it came on that steep section, Gilson opened the throttle. She started to just put a bit more pressure on. Straight away onto her heels came Elizabeth Van Heuling. And Van Heuling is an absolute class act and a very experienced racer and rider.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, definitely. And with some phenomenal power. I mean, she's strong over 20 minutes, but she's amazing over 15 seconds. You know, Van Heuling can put out 13 watts per kilo over 15 seconds. So for a short, sharp attack, you know, she's really got some legs.
Definitely. And if you can sustain that, you are going to go a long way clear. So right-hand side of your screen are race leaders just coming over the top section here, still at just over 7%, but they're going to then drop. It's a false flat on the top of this. False flat, i.e. basically it looks flat, but it isn't. It's a slight uphill. And then it's going to be into the descent. And it's going to be critical how these riders deal with the descent before they go into our next fourth category climb. On the left-hand side of your screens, you can just see a Georgina Hyde, and that is our leading third category rider, I think, at the moment, who is just making her way across the lakeside on the bridge, but she has got company behind. You can see Sandra Veronica in there as well. So two of our riders in category 3 on the bridge, as on the right hand side of your screen are leaders going up and over the top and into this descent. So here we go. This is where we are going to approach the steepest and the longest climb of the day. We do this twice. Our riders now are picking up pace, picking up speed, nearly 80 kilometers per hour on the descent. But as you come in, the transition from the downhill to the uphill, watch that gradient. We're at -9%. We're at -8, -6, -5, -4, less 2, 1. Here we go. And we're uphill. And we're onto a 4, 6%, 8% climb, 10% climb coming. And that is the transition, making sure you deal with that. As your turbo trainer kicks in, it's gone from letting you freewheel down there to slamming on the pressure and really forcing you to fight hard up this climb. And this is doing damage. There are bodies all over that lane on the carriageway here at Talmarie. And you can see it's Gilson, Moreno, Madonna Degan, Mashandi going through, Sanchez in there, Van Heuling in there. But it's Gilson again on the front. Moreno is responding to it. And you can just see these riders, they desperately want to stay on the heels. But yet again, it is Gilson who's clear at the front, Emma.
Yeah, it is indeed. And I wonder whether Gilson just has a certain watts per kilo and cadence that she likes to ride these short, sharp, steep sections at. And she just does that because no one is really pushing on at the moment. Whilst Gilson is taking the lead out the front, the rest of the riders are sat in the group, you know, tapping along quite comfortably according to their heart rates at the moment. You know, Donny's in there, Brogan's in there, Quevedo's in there, Bauer's in there. You know, these are really class riders. This is still quite a big group, even though though we're seeing the Category 1 riders come to the fore on this climb and the Category 2 green jersey riders slip to the back of that group, they're still in there and they're still pushing on, and the group is not split that much.
Now, just taking a look at that, I think we've just seen one of our riders, though, being distanced, being one of our riders in the yellow jersey. And you can just see that top right-hand side of your screen. As the pace went up, that gap started to open up behind our riders. So predominantly first category riders in here when we hit the climb. The second category riders a little bit further back, maybe just trying to protect themselves from the bouncing pace. Karut Kavedo, though, distanced off the back of Ronan May Joy, nearly in the mix, but the front of this race is very tough. And interestingly, I think we could potentially see the gap go here between the lead group and the rest of the riders. We're at 13%, but remember this climb, it continues a long, long way up here, and it's going to go to about 10.5k, so a long, long way to go. There's basically about 700 meters of climbing still to do. That's as long as the hill climb in London I was at yesterday on the mic.
Yeah, and I think we are seeing this now, aren't we, with Gilson and Bauer at the front pushing on. Those yellow jerseys are stretching down that road, and we're seeing riders. Van Hoolen there is currently in the mix. Quevedo, Moreno are all now having to dig to stay with that lead group on the road. As we get that nice panning view back down the road, you can see this really well. You know, Gilson is pushing on at the front there. The riders behind are chasing. The riders behind are now moving towards creating a yellow group, and it's going to be interesting when these riders go over the top of this group. We often see those distances stretch because of the way the road falls away beneath them and the speed at which they pick up so quickly. So this is going to be really telling here. How much of a distance are they going to be able to put on the rest of this climb to make a benefit as they go over the brow of the hill they can see in front of them without the riders behind them snowballing into them by just coming off the pedals a little bit later?
I think it's something that I know our viewers will have heard Emma say previously. It's about riding over the top, not to the top. So by riding over the top, our riders will be able to continue to push and eliminate out the green jerseys behind, ease off too soon. And remember, it's not always the rider's choice when their legs say, "You're easy enough, sunshine." That is when the gap. So you can see that right in front of your eyes here with Chiara Donning and Gemma Brogan chasing with Madana Dagan Mashandi, trying to get back in touch with Bauer, Gilson, and Marin, who rolled their way over the top at pace and have got that little bit of a gap.
Yeah, so you're looking at the watts per kilo. Bauer's still at 4.5, but Gilson and Marin have now come off the pedals. They're now sitting at Gilson is really come off the pedals at 1 watt per kilo. You can see behind here, however, some of the other riders in the chase group haven't come off the pedals as hard at all, and I can still see 4.96 watts per kilo coming out from Brogan at the moment because they need to catch those three. They know what the effect of going over the top in front does, and how it creates the speed and the pace and the momentum of the downhill really forces the gaps between those groups. So they really need to not back off the pedals and recover having gone over the top, but keep the power on the pedal to close the gap.
So here we go, left-hand side of your screen, Mashandi just trying to close that gap. As Emma said, the group on the right are the group of second category riders who were in with that race lead, now being distanced by the power and the pace of those first category riders up that climb. And that is telling, because even if they make contact with our leaders, when you've been dropped once on a climb, you don't have no, it stays in your head. It's always there, that nagging doubt. Well, even if I chase them back, if I get back on, all they're going to do to me is what they did last time on that climb. And that negative mindset really affects your performance. So sometimes you just don't even bother chasing. You just, it's no point. Why bother? I might as well just sit and make the most of what I've got here.
Oh, it's not always about the legs, Matt. It's sometimes about the psychology, and your head plays just as much of a part of racing as your legs do. And that's what a lot of these teams are going to be banking on today. You know, team tactics, putting a rider down the road, pushing on, continuing to push, maybe even sacrificing one of your riders to make a lot of play and to tire other people out, not just physically, but psychologically.
Well, we're just taking a little bit of a look to do that, play that psychological game, pushing riders down the road. You need to have strength in depth. You need to have the riders in volume. At the very front of this race, we're just in with Liliana Moreno. And Moreno, of course, sitting in here, riding for the Las Colombianas squad, looking good. But you have in here, remember, individual riders, Gilson, the only other individual riders who's made this front group. But then you've got Maria Marin riding for the Andinas team, but she doesn't have any teammates in here. So let's call that two riders who are individuals. But Las Colombianas, Strong Girls, Spartan Obstacles, Fusion Squad, and Team Italy all have strength in depth represented well in here. We've got Donny in this group. We've got Van Heuling in this group. Two separate teams, the two biggest names in terms of Spartan Obstacles and Fusion Squad. But look at the Strong Girl squad. Shandy on a great ride here.
Matt, we don't have Van Heulen and we don't have Quevedo in that front group at all. We're now in with Van Heulen. Do you know what? There is 20 seconds back. Van Heulen and Quevedo have not made the selection.
When did I miss that? That's incredible. I thought they were right on the mix there, and yet they're not in the front group. And what happened to Van Heuling there? That is a really uncharacteristic problem for Van Heuling. That rise and dip has taken her out of contention. And this is a big problem for the Spartan Obstacles if they want to take this back. But Van Heuling and Quevedo, teammates, are together up the road. Interestingly, Donny is in the mix. Dega Mashandi in that mix. Brogan is up there as well. And Brogan could be the rider that we are going to see having to take this out for the Spartan Obstacles instead. You can just see Gemma Brogan on the left of your screen there, and our camera is jumping in brilliantly.
Matt, you know, this group going back over the top of this climb and descending has absolutely split. We are now gone to a 5 riders in the lead. Donny is a lone rider in the middle. Van Heuling and Quevedo are 2 riders behind. So what was 8 category 1 riders is now a group of 5, a single chaser, and then 2 chasing behind.
And that is absolute destruction of this race from a team tactics point of view. Just incredible to see what damage was done by that steep climb, the drop and the rise. I think there's some sore legs. But remember, we are currently at 13.7k, which means that when we get to the top of this slight drag, we will drop down to the flatlands, and then we are going to have that long run along the base of the course, through the lap point, and then through that finishing point and onto lap number 2 before we go into our climbs once again. And this group at the front are big enough, I think, now to make this stick.
Yep, so Brogan has just bridged the gap and actually got back onto the back of that group. So we have got 6 riders now in this category 1 race who have travelled 14 kilometres of a 35.9 kilometre course. We are climbing gently on the 4th climb of the day of this lap. So this climb 1.6 kilometres in length, but an average gradient of 1.5%. So it is not steep at all. It is a long drag. They will come down off of this long drag and drop to the flatlands. The flatlands is where the finish line will be, but it will be the lap counter banner this time round. But it's a long straight section. So when we drop from the top of this climb, there's 3.2k to the banner. But after the banner, there's another 4 kilometres of flatlands. So that's around just over 7k of complete flat to transition between the end of the lap and the start of the climbing on lap 2. And we see it in front of us here. That long flat section is a real opportunity for these small groups behind to come together and work together and not back off the pace. But that relies completely on our front group of 6 sitting up and taking a rest.
Well, that's something I can't imagine they're going to do. We've got Jojo Bauer in the mix. We've got Maria Marin in that mix as well. We've got in there Rebecca Gilson as well in that group. You've got Liliana Moreno in the mix as well. It is a really interesting group at the front there, Emma. And I don't think Team Texas is going to play absolutely any part in this whatsoever, because looking at that split, you've got Gilson, individual rider. You've got Marin, basically an individual rider. You've got Bauer, for the Las Colombianas, no teammate in there. You've got Mashandi in there, no teammate in there. You've got Brogan in that group, no teammate for Brogan either. And all their teammates are behind them.
Yeah, Van Hooling and Quevedo, it looks as though they've been caught by the front two riders. In fact, they've been caught by the entire pack of the leading Category 2 riders. So Antico is in there, Sanchez is in there. There are a number of Category 2 riders. In fact, 2, 4, 6, 8. I think there's about 7 Category 2 riders in there that have now joined Van Hooling and Quevedo. So this is actually a really strong chase group now. And whilst Van Hooling and Quevedo as a two might not have made the catch, things could be different now. This is a bigger bunch, and the front group of this Category 2 race are going to want to race it out between them, and that might benefit Van Hooling and Quevedo in terms of bringing that front group back.
Indeed, if you're going to jump in with a group who are not in your category, and that is going to help. And I think the rider who's going to be most in danger is probably going to be Chiara Donny. Donny, a great climber, really, really great climber, but I think needs a longer climb in one go than we've got. And that gradient on the longest climb is steep for its duration. And I just don't think a rider on their own at this stage has got much chance of holding off the bunch, but it depends on how hard they work. We're seeing some big numbers from Donny. I'm seeing 4 and 5 watts per kilo coming from Donny. In this group, we're seeing 2.1, 2.3, 2.4s. It's not enough. They have to push on. And it may be that the Category 2 riders go, oh, you want to get there, guys? You've got the yellow jerseys. Get on with it.
Maybe. But you're right about Donny, Donny's 20-minute power time is probably one of the best of all of our Category 1 riders. That really is her strength. Over the riders who are better over 15, 30 seconds or a minute, Donny is particularly strong over 20 minutes in comparison to the other riders in this race. Now, Donny might want to be thinking about using that to her benefit, and rather than riding the course, she rides a time trial. So she actually thinks about riding at her 20-minute power for as long as possible to make the catch, rather than riding the ups, downs, and flats, assuming that the rest of the riders are not riding it like a time trial. They are riding the course and the gradient.
And we can see that effect happening here today. I mean, in terms of numbers, Emma, are we talking 5%, 10%, 20% better than most of the rest of the riders? What has Donny got?
So it's really interesting mix. It's a real mix of abilities in these Category 1 riders. They are all phenomenal riders, but some are better at the longer distances, some are better at the shorter distances. But I think Donny, Matt, is making the catch because she's doing exactly what we were just talking about. This front group of riders are ticking along now and are starting to move and are noticing. In fact, Bauer, I think, has noticed the challenge behind, because actually she's really pushing on now at the front. But I can see Donny now in the background, as Donny has sat at around 5 watts per kilo whilst these riders have been up and down, and she's been trying to close that gap. But they're either listening to us, Matt, or they're responding to what they're seeing on the screen, because the women at the front of this Category 1 race are not making it easy for Donny to make that catch.
Well, one of the key things is that screen on the right-hand side of your screen, the same as our riders. That front group being 5 riders will always be able to see on the right-hand side Donny's numbers, the time gap, and the distance in there. Sorry, 6 riders on the front, because of course we've got Bauer joining them. Brogan joining them in there. So Donny at the moment on 11 seconds back. She closed that almost to 8. She was within touching distance. Then Bauer kicked on again, trying to drop her off the back. And Donny, of course, ready for the Fusion squad. A real challenge on that climb if she can put that power down, but it's about having that pace to get across the distance. And Donny at the moment working well, but she's got a lot of work to do as we come up to that level. So 1 lap down, 1 more lap to go, 1 more lap to go, and here comes Donny chasing behind.
Yeah, so as we've got 1 lap to go and Donny comes under that banner, Donny is chasing the group ahead. The group ahead contain 6 riders of our Category 1 race, as Donny is moving through at a constant time trialing pace, trying to close that gap down.
So just taking a look at those riders in that leading group, really interesting mix, as Emma has said, in that category one battle. This our leading group in category two, looking good at the moment. But you can see that in the mix in with them, we've got Kvedo and Van Heuling, riders who we expected to see battling at the front of the category one race, not in the mix. And now they're in that fight. So Jarioni, Olsen, Sanchez in there. We're seeing Julie Sanchez and, in fact, Jenny Sanchez in there, Runame Joy Maya in the group as well. A big pack of riders. Got to see Nolan Kukkonen coming through. Those category two riders have a real fight on their hands here because there is a lot of riders and they are fast and they can climb.
Yeah, so there are 8 Category 2 riders I've just counted in this bunch, with the 2 Category 1 riders in there. But they look as though they are having a period of recovery on that flatland mat, because I think they're going to wait until they go into that climb for the second lot, because they are very closely matched, those Category 2 riders. We've seen a number of them take the 1, 2, 3 in many different orders. They are a really strong group of 8 riders, and any one of them could pretty much win.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens as they continue to push at the front of the group. We're just looking at the group rolling its way in and around. So it's Donning, it's Dagan Mashandi in there. We've got Maria Marin in there as well. Don't discount the fact that Gilson and Bauer no doubt have some kind of grudge match against each other as they come up onto the climbs as well. Brogan is in there and Moreno still in that mix. So really interesting. And of the teams, only Las Colombianas have 2 riders in the group, Liliana Moreno and Jojo Bauer for Las Colombianas. 2 riders in that group of 6 is going to be key.
And I love the way, Matt, you said so casually the group contained Donny, because Donny has closed that 11-second gap, and she has indeed time trialled her way over to that front group of 6. So our front group of 6 in the women's category 1 race now becomes a front group of 7, as they are coming up to the 20-kilometre mark on a 35.9-kilometre race. At 22.6k, the climbing starts again.
Well, Donny's made the contact, she's made the group, but will it be nagging in her head? I got dropped last time. Am I going to go get dropped this time? Or was it just a momentary pause? Was it something that could have been a drop gel? It could be getting that bottle wrong. You could just get the gear wrong. You know, literally, you get out of the saddle, you hit the gear lever. You maybe want to go down 1 gear, maybe go down 2 gears. If you're out of the saddle, maybe go up 1 gear or 2. Most people changing up a gear, go something a little bit harder when you're being able to use all your body strength. That can be enough. Get that gear selection wrong, you'll lose a bike length, 2 bike lengths, 3 bike lengths, and then you're in trouble.
You are. So we are in with the leading Category 1 racers here on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club, as we are ticking through the flatlands before we come to not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 climbs stand between these women and the finish.
So on our race today, we're here, Emma Martin and myself, Matt Payne. Don't forget, of course, all of our coverage available on the MyWhoosh YouTube channel, and you can subscribe to that. Make sure you give it a tick, get to know when we go live, as well as, of course, when we get our insights from the UAE teams. That's the men's and the women's teams. And, of course, some great coverage from the gang out in Wollongong on social media. So it's MyWhoosh on Facebook, on Instagram. It's my_whoosh on Twitter. And of course, come and join us. Come and jump into a race. Join us on a ride. Lots of social rides, lots of bunch rides, and racing on MyWhoosh. Download the app, whether you're on iOS, on Android, or of course on a Windows platform. You can jump in. Now, just having a little bit of a look further back on our screens, the group that you can see on your screen, this duo of riders, Catherine Fuhr and Marlene Bjarhed, at the moment are 4 seconds off the back of the group with Novelin Conan. But more importantly, this is a group with Kvedo and with Van Heuling. Who's in here? Fuhr. Which teammates has she got? Just up the road, Van Heuling and Quevedo, 3 riders, same team, into Group 2.
It is really interesting, isn't it, Matt? Because this group that they are catching is Group 2 on the road. It is a long way back from Group 1 on the road, mind you, but it is now about to become a group of 4 Category 1 riders and 8 Category 2 riders. This is now a big group of 12 riders, and it's going to be really interesting to see what the addition of 2 extra Category 1 riders can do.
Well, that gap is huge. I mean, 1 minute 42. Can't see that coming back personally. But remember, team prizes at stake at the moment. In terms of the team prize, this could be really telling because Spartan Obstacles have 1 rider in the leading group, but 3 riders in the group behind. No other team has that. Not even close. By my calculations, the team that could take the win could be a team that has 1 rider, Brogard, in that lead group. And it's about those 3 counting riders. It's going to be really interesting as we move in. 2 riders in the front there. Yes, for Las Colombianas, but they don't then have a rider in Group 2. Their next rider is a lot further back, and I think he's going to struggle to make contact. It's going to come down potentially to seconds between it. So I'm glad I'm not doing the calculations, not with my maths.
So if you're watching the racing here on MyWhoosh today and you're thinking you'd like to have a go, you don't need to be part of a team. You can race as an individual rider. Indeed, the qualification rounds throughout the months are individual races, not team prizes. The team prizes only come on the final each month. To do that, you need to go onto mywhoosh.com. You need to download the app, take a look at the platform, ride some of the courses, and register for an event. You can register for the Sunday Race Club on the MyWhoosh website. I strongly suggest you read the technical guide, you read the rule sets, and you follow the process because there's something for everybody here. And whether you are a Cat 1, Cat 2, or Cat 3 rider, come and join us on the Sunday Race Club.
So come on, come in and join us. Come in and have a go. You don't need to be at the front of the pack. We love to see how everybody gets on. All the results on www.mywhoosh.com. Here we go. Coming in, it's 22.5k. We're approaching the 10k to go on marker. We're coming onto a climb. Gilson rolls up near the front. We're seeing them coming through now. Who has got the legs to stay with them? So this, the first big section up once again. We're back in the hills, Emma. This should be telling for our finale.
It should be, shouldn't it? And strangely enough, or no surprise to most people, Rebecca Gilson has gone to the front, but actually Bauer behind is putting out some strong power, so is Marin. And actually they're looking at each other and measuring their effort by the look of this, Matt, because no one is pulling away and everyone is pretty much set on the same power in this group. So we have 7 riders in this front group who are now on climb 1 of 4 on lap 2 of this race.
I'm glad you did the numbers, not me. I can't count that far. So here we go. Gilson on the front of the race with a little bit of a gap. That bunch Emma was talking about all rolling behind. And look at this. No one being distance. We wondered if we were going to see Donny struggling. We wondered whether we'd see Brogan struggle. Or was it going to be Shandy? Could have been Marin. Any one of these riders could have had a hard time. In fact, the rider who is at the back of the group is Liliana Moreno. And then it is that big gap back to the chasing group number 2. But it's still rolling around 1 minute behind this race lead. Led at the moment by Rebecca Gilson. Gilson leading the race at the moment. The individual rider at the front of that race. Then it's Maria Marin, then Mashandi, then Donny, Bauer, Moreno, Brogan. That's your leading group. This is who the top 3 should come from. It should, in theory, be our top 7. Will it be in the order we expect? Let's see how they are going.
So, Matt, these riders are coming to the top of this first climb. This is the first climb of 4. And if you remember on the course profile, we descend off of climb 1 and then we have a flat land transition before we get to climb 2. Now, I am expecting whatever distance is put between these riders on this climb, it will all come back together again in this lead group on the descent and the flatlands, unless someone pushes on. What we will then see is the group go into climb number 2, which is 800 meters with an average gradient of 6.3%. They will go up climb 2, drop down, and go immediately into our steepest climb on the course. It's 900 meters with an average gradient of 12.3%. What we then see is a descent and some rolling climbs before we drop to the flatlands for the finish. And it's 3.2K of flatland to the finish. So this is going to be really interesting. Whoever goes over the second category 4 climb in the lead is really going to have a benefit because they will hit that descent first. And pushing on that descent is what made the difference to the front leading group in this race on lap 1.
So here we go. That group still pretty much together, but Donny and Brogan now at a distance. That push over the top has seen them go. They've seen the distance open up, and it shows that it wasn't a fluke that Donny got distance. Not on the day that we've seen earlier on in the month there for Chiara Donny, the rider who took victory in the August finals. Not going to be in the mix, I think, now at this stage, unless you can get back.
Really different course last time round, though, Matt.
Yep.
And the nature of the course really dictates which of our riders is stronger.
And we're watching on our screens our strongest riders on the race at the moment on your left-hand side. On the right-hand side of the screen, this is the chasing group. And this chasing group are coming up towards the top of that same climb behind. So they are starting to close in on anybody who is distant. And in fact, it's a bit like Jaws coming up behind you. You've got this big pack chasing. And if you ease off too much, you could lose a lot of places at the moment. If you are dropped from the lead group, you think, okay, I'm going to be secure in 6th, 7th place, maybe. But this pack are going to shift, particularly on the flatlands, and that makes a difference. So, left-hand side of your screen, your race leaders coming down in towards that long bridge that goes up and over the oasis, on to the climb, and on to that steep kicker that runs into that final big category 4 climb. However, from this leading group, will it be Bauer, Dega Mashandi, or will it be Gilson, Moreno, or will it be Brogan who is able to take this out? However, Brogan, I think, won't be in here. I don't think Donny are going to be in here. They're not going to get this back, surely, Emma.
Yeah, so our leading group of 7 riders looks like it has become, over that first climb on this final lap, a leading group of 5 with 20 seconds back to 2 riders, Donny and Brogan. As we sit in with Liliana Moreno and look at that we are about to sweep round that right-hand bend, and that bridge of the climb is in front of us. This bridge is an 800-meter climb with an average gradient of 6.3%, and we've got a group of 5 women about to ride up it.
This is going to be key, because I think if I was in this race, in this leading group, I would want to be making it hard on the precursor to the main climb. I wouldn't want to just leave it for the main climb, but you've got to be confident. And we know who is always confident the moment it goes uphill. It's Rebecca Gilson, but she's got her nemesis, Jojo Bauer, in there. And the Bauer-Gilson battle is a great one to watch as we go on to the climb. They're going to be led on by Madonna Dega Mashandi. Gilson, though, goes over the top. So it's Gilson with the black helmet with the gold cap. Is Dega Mashandi. They're side by side coming up this climb, but Gilson continues to push at 7 watts per kilo. So Gilson on the front in the black helmet, Dega Mashandi behind it in that gold cap. Then it's Jojo Bauer with the white cap on the black wheel, sitting in third wheel. Looks like Moreno is now in trouble and is going to be fighting for her position, as is Maria Marin, because it is Rebecca Gilson who is starting to pull clear for now 5 seconds, Emma.
Yeah, so as the gradient hits more than 10%, Gilson is pushing on at 6.7 watts per kilo with a heart rate ticking up, continues to tick up 188, 189. She's pushing on 190. This is a real effort for Gilson here as she's heading towards the top of this climb. Behind, on the right-hand side of the screen, we can see the leading riders in Category 2 coming towards the right-hand bend, which signifies the bottom of the climb that the front of the race is currently at the top of.
So here we go. This is going to be key. We're currently ticking along at a 26.1k for our chasing group. They're chasing a solo leader in Rebecca Gilson. Will they bring it back? Well, not long to find out. But remember, this course, we are still the wrong side of that mountain range. We're going to dip, we're going to climb up onto our fourth category climb, but as we've seen, it's rolling and then flat. Emma's really has shown us very clearly on that graphic exactly what is coming up, and whether our riders have the pace to stay away will depend on how much they expend here. Bauer now going off in pursuit of Gilson. It's like a pursuit from the track here, because you can just see Bauer wants that gap to come down. She's not prepared to leave it, and I think she realizes that if she lets Gilson go too far in front on this descent, Gilson will carry too much of a lead on the big climb.
Yeah, and I think, look at that. That is exactly what Jojo Bauer is banking on from tactics. Gilson has dropped to 0.9 watts per kilo to recover on the downhill, and Bauer is having none of it. Bauer has stayed at 4.5 watts per kilo. She is time trialing across to Gilson. Gilson has just noticed, and she's tried to respond, but do you know what? She's taking the recovery, and I think she's going to bank on the climb, Matt.
Well, this is going to be interesting. Bauer came in at pace. How much momentum is Bauer going to carry through this section? It's already ramping up. And I think Gilson might well have timed that to perfection, because she's kicked at 7 watts per kilo. And Bauer just about makes contact. I think she could have just about picked a pocket, and up goes Gilson. But look at Maria Marin doing a great ride there. She came down with that pace and momentum to go over the top of Bauer, and that group behind, well, they almost came back together again, but Gilson attacks now. So Gilson pushing at 6.5 watts per kilo. Bauer, she's half a watt per kilo down, and that is going to be telling now.
It is, isn't it? As we push onto this climb, this is the steep climb of this course, and this is where the action is going to come. I think 900 meters with an average gradient of 12.3% as our lead riders push up this climb, with Gilson trying to show us really how it's done.
Well, I think it's going to be a masterclass to the top of the climb, but can Gilson then hold off the riders behind? If I was in that chasing group, I would be watching what Gilson does, not panicking, and then looking to close down from the summit all the way to that finish line. The advantage is with the group behind. If they work together, if they make the most of the aerodynamic advantage of hiding behind someone else. The question will be, how much time does Gilson need over the top to go solo to the finish? I would suggest she needs about 21.5 seconds by my calculations.
21.5.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think that's absolutely exact. But I also think it depends on how much Gilson pushes over the descent on the other side, and how much recovery she needs, and how much effort and how much going into the red pushing on this climb is giving her. Her heart rate is up to 196, which is below where we saw her blow last week. It looks like a more managed effort, Matt. And I think with the distance to the finish from the top of this, if she can time trial down the other side and through the rolling sections and flatlands, it's going to be really close. That group behind are really going to need to work together and not sit up and look at each other. As we drop back in with Brogan, who is in with Donny, these are the two riders who are distanced from that lead group earlier on this climb.
And interesting to see these two riders side by side. They're 27 seconds and dropping ahead of the chasing pack behind. They've got a decent gap between them and the riders in front. And I think it could well be the case that Gilson in that lead, clear of the chasing pack. It's one against the pack behind. It might not be enough, but I think that could be the same thing with Brogan and Donny trying to stay clear of the chasing Group 2 riders that contains Elizabeth Van Heuling, her teammate Cavado as well in that pack. And I think they're going to have that advantage. But look at Gilson here. We're sitting at just shy of 6 watts per kilo, and she's still motoring on.
She is indeed. She's still got 400 meters to the top of that climb, though, Matt. And I am still watching her heart rate tick up, but the legs are working really, really strongly as she continues to want to be the first person over the top of the climb.
Well, she's committed to that move, hasn't she? And that really is counting. Now, this is the chasing pack behind Group 2, behind our duo. And then we are into the leaders of Category 2, which has got at the moment Sylvia, Ilaria, Olivia leading them up over. But Gilson now over the top here and into this descent down. This is where she has to make this count. And as she went over the top, that gap is at 40 seconds. 40 seconds as she went over the top of the climb. We're just seeing Bauer continue to push over the top of that same climb. And that gap is now starting to come down as Bauer goes over the top with a huge gap, I think, from her to the chasers behind her.
Yeah, and look at Gilson. Gilson is tactically using the aero tuck there to bring her heart rate down and drop it like a stone the other side of this climb. Really smart tactics from Gilson here as we see her pick up the pedals and push back on them to try and keep that gap that she sustained over that climb.
So smart riding by Gilson. Bauer in pursuit with a gap back to Moreno. And I think Bauer has decided that Moreno, Degamashandi, and Maria Marin has not got the pace to close it down on Gilson. She wants her back. And now we are seeing rider versus rider. It's Gilson versus Bauer. Behind then, it's Mashandi, it's Moreno, it's Marin. Then further back, Donny and Brogan. A little further back behind them, Van Heuling and co. This race absolutely smashed to pieces on this climb. It's a tough climb, and it really does break up the riding. But Gilson in that race lead at the moment is number one with Bauer number two. Number one on the left of your screens. Number two, Bauer, right-hand side of your screen.
Yeah, and we have seen the time trialing ability of both of these riders, Matt, in previous races. They are both really, really strong. And when they make a commitment and when they decide to stay away, they are both more than capable of holding a really strong, constant power and actually achieving their objectives.
So now we're coming in towards that 30K marker, which means we are going to have just over 5 kilometers to go. This is really interesting. We've got Gilson at 12 seconds ahead of Bauer, who's on your screens. About 30 seconds back behind Bauer is a chasing group of 2 riders. Then it's Maria Marin. Then we've got Donny. Then we've got people like Brogan. All of these riders, though, really are up against it on this course because Gilson, looking at those watts per kilo, I think she is the rider who's got this right. She's gone clear. I said she needed 21.5. She had 40 seconds at the top. She won't win by 20 seconds. That is for sure. I think Gilson knows that she has to push all the way to the finish. And remember, you can still have a problem with your chain. You can still have problems. Your legs can go pop. And let's face it, we've seen Gilson blow before. It could happen again if she goes too far in that red zone.
Yeah, but we are back in now with our Category 2 race, Matt, and we are seeing here Oliviero actually doing exactly the same and breaking that group over the top of the climb, and now they are on the descent, and look at that. She's got Sanchez for company, Julie Sanchez, that is, because Jenny Sanchez is a little bit further back down the road with Olsen and Garioni. This group look as though they're going to come back together, and it's not split as much as the Category 1 race up the road.
Well, look at this. It is really interesting. We see riders took it down like Sanchez, and yet this group, I mean, it could come down to a bunch sprint here between them. A small group sprint. It's not going to be 60 riders coming piling in together. A real battle here. And time really running out for anybody who wants to do this on a climb. It's going to come down to being able to sprint and who has got the pace and what speed they roll in. Meanwhile, we are back on our next section. We think the leaders getting closer. We're going to have to keep an eye on it. Here we are back in with our cameras at the moment. So Gilson is now at 2 seconds in front of Bauer. Bauer has never given up on this pursuit. Now comes Gilson, and I think Bauer's going to have her here.
Oh, well, I think this is going to be a two-up race now, Matt, because we're going to see Bauer come alongside Gilson in the next second. So Gilson worked really hard on that climb. She pushed over the top with the lead, and Bauer has taken her time. She has continued at a strong pace, but she's not let off. And rather than vary her pace, she has made that catch by just maintaining her calm, maintaining her composure, and actually just pushing through at where she knows she can sit very comfortably.
So Bauer and Gilson together, they have nearly a minute to the riders behind. That means that our race winner with the distance that is left should come from R2. The question will be, who is it going to be? Gilson is getting more rest on that section because she was caught by Bauer. She clearly wasn't pushing on as hard. But looking at that heart rate, Emma, and you made this point more than once today, Gilson can go to over 200 beats per minute. She's got some capacity in there at the moment to be able to push harder. When will she choose to do that, or will she leave it to that final sprint?
Well, it's a really good question, isn't it, Matt? Because Gilson and Bauer are very well matched. I would expect whichever of them who makes an attack, the other one will respond. And it could just be a battle of the legs here as we see Gilson respond with a 5.5 watts per kilo little stab to see what Bauer is going to do and to see whether the catch has tired Bauer out or not.
Interesting, she's chosen to do it. This is that little rise before we drop into the flatlands. Still some distance. Now, Bauer, I think, waited there to see how hard Gilson was going. She let it go. It may well be that Bauer says, well, I've pulled you back once, I can pull you back again. Or is it the case, as Gilson, I think, is banking on that Bauer doesn't have it in her legs to go after her a second time, or is it a third or fourth time, given the volume of attacking that Gilson does? But that battle on the left of your screen, absolutely intriguing between our two race leaders in category 1. In category 2, our leaders are on the right of your screen. We're in with Sylvia, Ilaria, Olivia. Looks like Jenny Sanchez, Julie Sanchez in the mix. Rhoda May Joy Meyer in there as well. Morgane Olsen. It really is a who's who of our second category riders. And it is those riders who are going to be battling it out for the prizes at the top of category 2.
Yeah, and this category 2 race, Matt, is looking like I think it's going to come down to a sprint finish because they seem to be just sat there ticking along, looking at each other. No one at the moment has been able to break anybody else on those climbs, and those climbs were really where the damage could be done. This is a group of the category 2 riders, of a group of very consistent, strong riders who are very well matched. It's going to be a really interesting sprint finish, I think, there, Matt.
Indeed, and I think this could well come down to a sprint. I'm just looking at the watts per kilo from Bauer and Gilson. We're talking like 1.6, 2 watts per kilo. That is basically going for a little cat nap, a little snooze on the way around the course for these two, because we know they're capable of so much more, but they also know they have the gap. We could see these riders literally take it down to almost a track stand as they make the way in. Now we're going to drop off this elevated bridge. We're going to go into those flatlands right on the bottom. And you know what? I could see this being very close with the riders behind because they've got so much time to burn. They can properly play this game to the full by yo-yoing the pace, by easing off. This is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're doing, isn't it? You know, it would be an amazing track race if we were watching it right now. They'd be stopping, starting, looking at each other, looking backwards, backing off, pushing on as Gilson pushes Gilson 8.7 watts per kilo coming out of Gilson at the moment. And Jojo Bauer responding up at 7.2. They are really playing cat and mouse, these two at the front of this race, pushing on, backing off, pushing on, backing off. This is some fantastic play between these two riders.
And look at this, Gilson goes over the top again. Once again, Gilson really is working, but then eases right down. Then Bauer goes over, responds and kicks, and they're looking at the gap. And this is really testing each other out. They're trying to see who's got anything left. Remember, we go to 35.9K, not a traditional 35K, it's 35.9K. Now, we've talked about before, and you saw it on the rewind, that rolling through effect by coming off from laying off behind to attacking and rolling through. Now, Gilson goes. Gilson goes hard. 13 watts per kilo we've just seen from Gilson. She rolled to the front. She's now at 13 watts, dropping down to 8 and 9 watts per kilo. Bauer has to respond. There is a gap behind Gilson here, and you can see it on your screen. So Bauer responds to the attack by Gilson. She's going to get herself into that slipstream. And how many times can you put in a 30 watt per kilo attack without tiring yourself out and without leaving yourself open to a counterattack?
Well, it's interesting, Matt, but they obviously don't want to take it into the last 300 meters because they are attacking each other and attacking each other. It's a war of attrition out there at the moment as Bauer goes again and Gilson has to push through into her slipstream. But they are the war. I'm taking a look at this. They've got 800 meters to go and they are playing this for the long one.
They are indeed. Bauer on the front at the moment. Gilson sitting just behind. We are watching that tick down 600 meters, so just over half a kilometer to the finish. Another big dig this time from Jojo Bauer. Gilson has to respond to it. Gilson with the black helmet. The white cap is Bauer. Bauer now moves off the front once again. They are yo-yoing up and down. There is nothing to choose between these two riders. You wouldn't want to bet a matchstick on it. Never mind a house between these two as Bauer puts another dig and Gilson winds it up. Gilson's now at 7.6 watts per kilo, but Bauer now goes to 9.9. Has Bauer got the beating of Gilson? Gilson has to respond. The gantry is on its way. Bauer is going to kick for the line, and Bauer is going to take it after all of the racing. Gilson comes through behind Bauer. She's not going to make it. It's going to be Maria Marin who comes through behind. And it shows you just how close these riders were going. I mean, we have seen an incredible finish here today as they come in through the gantry from our two leaders. Bauer, Gilson, look at that.
Well, that was just perfect timing from Bauer there because Gilson and Bauer were attacking each other for the last 2 kilometers of that race. And Bauer's timing on her final attack took her over the line first. Fantastic win from Jojo Bauer and a fantastic second place from Rebecca Gilson.
Well, thank you very much to our two leaders who turned that into first and second place on the road. Gilson, after all of that attacking, coming in second place to Jojo Bauer, who takes the race win. And Emma, I mean, we've got to say, these two riders really showed us just how good they are.
Oh, and how well matched they are, and how strong they are about reading a race course and working out where their strengths are and where best to use them. Absolutely fantastic riding from our 1-2 today.
Indeed, now we are watching the rest of our riders start to head in. We're looking at Madonna Degamashandi and Liliana Moreno out on the course together. Then it's going to be Donny and Brogan behind. And you can see at the moment Mashandi and Moreno are going to be very close together. Donny has Brogan for company, and then it is that chasing pack of a second category riders. And this is the right-hand turn that will lead them into the finish. Will Dega Mashandi come in ahead of Moreno? She's got the gap at the moment, but we saw how close it came to the line. It will catch you napping if you're not careful, and I think Moreno just losing out to Mashandi. Indeed, she does so. Top spot, Jojo Bauer. Second place, Rebecca Gilson. Third place is going to be Dega Mashandi. Fourth place is Liliana Moreno. And that means the last Colombiana squad have 2 riders in our team competition.
They do indeed, Matt, as we go back to Chiara Donny, who's got Gemma Brogan for company just behind her. And as we saw with the previous riders, they take this right-hand bend and then the gantry comes. So we have got Brogan and Donny, 2 more riders coming into this race finish together as they take this right-hand bend.
So Donny, the rider for the Fusion squad. Brogan riding for the Spartan Obstacles. They're going to be the first of their teams to qualify. What position is it going to be? What time are they going to get as they hit the line? It's Brogan who's going to come through ahead of Donny. There's next to nothing between those riders. It came down to 2 seconds on the line. That is nothing after 35.9 kilometers of racing. So at the moment, we have our leading riders in category 1 in. Our next group on the road it's this group, and these are our Category 2 riders. Now, Julie Sanchez, Alicia Antico. We've got Jenny Sanchez. We've got Sylvia Ilaria Olivieri. We've got Rona May Joy Maya Morgan Olsen and Martina Jarioni, all of which could score big here and win.
Yeah, this is not a 2-up sprint taking this right-hand bend, Matt. This is a 7-up sprint. And we've got 7 riders coming in, and they are going to come round this bend, and they are going to see the finish line as Antico puts in a massive dig. Can anybody else respond as the rest of the riders come through? Sanchez, I think. I think that's going to be a win for Jenny Sanchez in that Category 2 race, just coming over the top of Antico. Olsen in 3, Joy Meyer in 4, Garioni in 5th, and Julie Sanchez rounding out the top 5 in that Category 2 race.
Well, what a finish there. I thought Antico had it there, Emma, as they came screaming in to the finish, and it wasn't to be. It was Sanchez. So that's Category 2 race in and done. And in that, you can see, again, a mix of teams. Our next rider in is going to be Fua, who is going to come in to the line. And I think in terms of the team competition, we are going to see a great result for the Spartan Obstacles team taking the win. Unconfirmed at the moment, but looking that way for the Category 1, and the Tri-Women taking the win for the Category 2 riders. But what amazing racing. Don't forget, our squads are shown there on the screen, along with all of the rest of the results on the MyWhoosh.com website. We've had an amazing final race in September here on MyWhoosh, and I've got to say a massive thank you to all the team behind the scenes, as well as our riders, our coaches, who make the racing what it is. Been great racing, Emma. Where can we catch up with you on social media before we get to qualifier number 1?
Yeah, what an amazing finish to September. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Biking Emma.
And you can find me at Matt Fixer Pain. You can find me on MyWhoosh, on Strava, as well as, of course, on social media, and, of course, at Full Speed Events as well. We'll be back with our qualifiers next week. From myself, Matt Payne, from Emma Martin, and all of the team at MyWhoosh. Stay safe. Enjoy your bike riding. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.